Dim the lights, settle into your chair, and let the quiet weight of history unfold. Tonight, we stand before the pyramids of Egypt, vast, silent, and entirely indifferent to the passage of time. You've seen their pictures, perhaps even visited them, but have you ever wondered why they still spark debate after more than 4,500 years? The Great Pyramid of Giza alone rises 481 feet above the desert floor, its limestone casing once gleaming so brightly that travelers claimed it shone like the sun. Yet the more we study it, the more questions it seems to raise. Were these truly just royal tombs, or something more? How did ancient builders achieve such precision? And why are there so many conflicting theories? If this storytelling helps you relax, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you peace. Also, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. You see, the pyramids don't just belong to Egypt. They belong to every curious mind that has stood before them, scratching at the sand and wondering. Inscriptions and records are sparse. Herodotus, writing 2,000 years after they were built, claimed the Great Pyramid took 20 years and 100,000 workers. Later, estimates suggest smaller crews of skilled laborers rotating seasonally. Not slaves, as once believed. Archaeologists uncovered workers' villages nearby, revealing bread ovens, copper tools, and even beer jars. Mundane remnants of an extraordinary task. What's perhaps most surprising is how quiet and unglamorous the daily work was. Workers dragged limestone blocks on sleds greased with water. They measured angles with plumb bobs, laid down rows of copper chisels in the baking sun, and leveled the foundation by flooding it with water to ensure perfect flatness. In the grand story of the pyramids, it was ordinary persistence that raised them, not mystery or magic. Still, the debate persists. Some argue that the pyramids are far too precise to have been achieved without unknown technology. Others insist we simply underestimate the ingenuity of ancient engineers. There are even those who propose they served astronomical purposes, aligning with the stars, or acted as a kind of giant calendar. So as you close your eyes and picture that golden desert littered with stone and shadow, you might begin to wonder yourself, if the pyramids are just tombs, why do they still hold such power over our imagination? Now that you've settled comfortably into the quiet rhythm of history, let's slip inside one of these ancient pyramids together. Take a deep breath. The air grows cooler and heavier as we move down narrow passages cut into limestone. The walls feel damp in places, the silence broken only by the faint echo of our footsteps. What exactly is inside these massive structures? The popular idea that they are royal tombs does hold up under scrutiny, at least partially. Within the Great Pyramid of Giza lies the so-called King's Chamber, a simple, undecorated granite room housing a rectangular sarcophagus. It sits oddly off-center, and yet the dimensions of the chamber, as well as its ventilation shafts and alignment to celestial bodies, have puzzled researchers for centuries. Before we go further, a little reminder. If this storytelling helps you relax, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you peace. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to hear where this sleepy history reaches. Despite the absence of rich wall paintings or gold within the pyramid itself, many believe that the true treasures were once housed here. but stolen long before modern archaeologists arrived. Others argue that the pyramid's purpose was never entirely funerary at all. In the workers' village, archaeologists found hieroglyphs describing teams of laborers, each named after playful phrases like friends of Khufu or drunkards of Menkaure. These records hint at camaraderie and a sense of collective purpose, not the whip-driven slavery that popular films once imagined. We also know they feasted well. Remains of bread, beef, and fish bones suggest these builders were well fed, perhaps even respected craftsmen. Inside the pyramids, passageways bend, ascend, and descend in strange directions. The Great Pyramid contains the so-called Grand Gallery, a high, sloping corridor lined with massive stones leading up to the king's chamber. Smaller, low-ceilinged tunnels branch off in confusing ways. Some corridors lead nowhere at all, as though designed to frustrate intruders or confuse looters. And yet, no pharaoh's mummy has ever been definitively found inside the Great Pyramid itself. This has fueled endless speculation. Were the real burial chambers hidden elsewhere? Or were the pyramids never intended to house human remains at all? So, as you rest here, deep in the heart of stone, one question lingers softly in the air. If these tombs were never truly tombs, then what were they built to protect? Dimly lit and impossibly vast, the pyramids also whisper upward, not just downward into their chambers. Tonight, let's leave the dusty corridors behind and step back outside. Look up. The stars over the Giza Plateau glimmer faintly, as they must have done for those ancient builders, and here begins another layer of debate. Were these pyramids designed with the heavens in mind? Some researchers believe the pyramid's placement was far from random. The Great Pyramid is aligned to the cardinal points of the compass with astonishing precision, within a fraction of a degree, something we can still measure today. But why? Was it a sign of spiritual devotion, an attempt to mirror the order of the cosmos here on Earth, or simply a reflection of their skill? If this quiet exploration soothes you, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you peace. And tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is there. These stories seem to connect people across time zones, just like the pyramids connect earth and sky. Some theories point to the constellation Orion. The three pyramids at Giza appear to mimic the layout of Orion's belt: two bright stars and a slightly offset third. This idea has fascinated both scholars and dreamers, suggesting that the pyramid served as a terrestrial mirror of the heavens, ensuring the pharaoh's soul could ascend to join the gods. Other studies claim the pyramids could have functioned as vast solar observatories. On the solstices and equinoxes, the light and shadow along their edges behave in ways that seem deliberate, marking the passage of seasons, perhaps to guide agricultural cycles or ceremonial calendars. But here, too, the evidence is fragmentary. Some argue these alignments are coincidental or merely the result of good geometry rather than cosmic intent. After all, Egyptian texts that survive rarely describe such purposes directly. Meanwhile, the people who built the pyramids left behind more immediate earthly records: graffiti inside the stones, naming their work crews, and even humorous notes mocking rival teams. These human details, small jokes scrawled in red ochre, bring the builders to life far more vividly than any grand cosmic theory ever could. And so we stand in the quiet between stars and stone, left to wonder, were the pyramids designed as stairways to the heavens, or are we simply reading too much into what might have been nothing more than impressive construction? We've gazed at the stars and wandered through corridors, but now it's time to bring our attention back to the ground and to the people whose lives were spent moving stone after stone, day after day. When you imagine the construction of the pyramids, perhaps you picture endless rows of slaves toiling under the whip. That image, though dramatic, is not supported by what we actually know. Archaeologists have unearthed surprising evidence suggesting that the workers were not slaves, but rather laborers, skilled and unskilled, recruited from across Egypt. Excavations near the pyramids revealed workers' villages, neatly organized with rows of small, mud brick houses. There were bakeries turning out thousands of loaves of bread each day, breweries supplying beer, the staple drink of the time, and even medical supplies, including splints and bandages for injuries. Remains of cattle bones and fish indicate that workers were fed remarkably well, likely to keep up their strength. It seems the labor was organized into rotating crews, perhaps of 2,000 to 4,000 men at a time, divided into teams that competed to complete sections of the structure. Some of their graffiti even boasts of their accomplishments, calling themselves things like the Drunkards of Menkaure or the Friends of Khufu. You can almost hear the tired humor behind the words. There's also evidence of accidents, crushed bones, overworked joints, a reminder of how dangerous the work could be. And yet, these men appear to have been buried with care and respect in nearby cemeteries, suggesting they were valued members of society, not disposable slaves. And how exactly did they move those enormous stones? The answer seems to lie in the simplest of technologies. Sledges gliding over sand made slick with water to reduce friction. Teams of men pulling in unison, guided by foremen with measuring ropes and wooden levels. Boring? Perhaps, but profoundly human in its quiet persistence. And so, standing here at the foot of the Great Pyramid, among the echoes of laughter, sweat, and quiet determination, we're left to wonder, did these workers understand the significance of what they were building? Or was it just another day's labor under the sun? We walked through the dark corridors, traced the lines of the stars, and stood alongside the workers who built these ancient monuments. Now, here we are, at the edge of the desert, looking back at the pyramids not as mysteries to solve, but as reminders of how ordinary persistence can leave extraordinary marks on history. The pyramids have stood for over 4,500 years. They've witnessed sandstorms, floods, armies, and empires come and go. They've inspired poets, baffled scientists, and drawn millions of footsteps from every corner of the world, and yet they remain stubbornly silent about their full story. If you found peace in these quiet thoughts tonight, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you comfort. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It's remarkable how history connects us all, even when we're oceans and time zones apart. In the end, what matters most about the pyramids may not be whether they were tombs, star maps, or grand political statements. What matters is that they stand as proof of something deeply human, the desire to endure, to leave behind something that outlives us. Even the smallest of the pyramids, the ones crumbling quietly at the edges of the Giza Plateau, still carry that message. Ordinary people living in mud brick houses, baking bread and hauling stones, built these wonders. The grandeur we see today is made from thousands of small, repetitive acts of patience and strength, and yet questions remain. Why did the builders choose this precise shape? Was it truly a staircase to the gods, or merely the most stable way to stack heavy stones? Why do the internal chambers and passageways seem so deliberately confusing? Perhaps we'll never know. As you drift off to sleep tonight, imagine the faint sounds of the workers' hammers on stone, the soft hush of the desert wind, and the quiet shimmer of stars over the plateau. The same stars that those builders gazed at when they laid down their tools for the evening, centuries ago. And maybe that's the real answer, not a riddle to solve, but a story to feel, one of endurance, resilience, and quiet beauty. Good night, and remember, the pyramids still wait for you to wonder about them tomorrow. If you enjoyed this, just wait for the next story. It's worth the wait. Subscribe for more sleepy journeys through forgotten history.